This is the West Virginia Capitol Report. Funding for the West Virginia Capitol Report is brought to you by Mark A. Hunt and Associates and by the AFL-CIO of West Virginia.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Capitol Report. I'm Bill Laird, and we have a great show lined up for you here today. As we all know, public education is a matter of critical importance to the future of the state of West Virginia, and we're very honored and pleased to be joined here today by Christine Campbell, the president of the American Federation of Teachers in the state of West Virginia, and we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of public education and some of the important things that are going on right now affecting the future of public education in West Virginia. We're also going to have an opportunity to talk to some other candidates, perhaps some of which were motivated as a result of the teacher strike that occurred during the most recent session of the West Virginia legislature. Again, a lot of momentum coming out of that movement that continues on today and certainly will likely affect the outcome of elections come November. Again, sort of a moniker of that effort was Remember in November, so we'll be exploring that with a number of candidates here today. But we'll start off with our guest, a good friend of mine, Christine Campbell of the AFT. And Christine, welcome to the Capitol Report.
Oh, thank you so much. It's good to be back on the show.
Absolutely. Well, again, folks are well aware of the issues that the teachers brought to the West Virginia legislature this past session. A tremendous amount of momentum. Actually, it had national impact and implications, sort of a catalyst of how can you affect public policy, and again, just the real strong showing of educators relating to important issues affecting their livelihood and the future of our children. That's certainly been well documented. But this isn't really the off season. The legislature is not in session, but been busy with a lot of things. But again, I'd like to start with your assessment as to the momentum that perhaps that event created, and sort of is that still seem to be alive and well and moving throughout the rank and file of the AFT?
Absolutely. I mean, post-strike, we've had requests from our members have gone internationally to talk about this. We've also had a lot of other labor folks and groups reach out to us to talk about the strike, and it's just been, I think our people are proud of the fact that they took that step and they did it for the right reasons, for public education and the students of West Virginia, and not even realizing at the time that it was inspiring other groups to do the same thing and empower them to take action for issues in their state, be it at the local level or the legislative level, so at the state level. So it's been amazing. I think people are energized about the upcoming election season. I think there's a lot of questions and issues going around the PEIA task force, so that's keeping people engaged and really educating themselves on what's happening and putting the pressure on the candidates to announce where do you stand on this issue, and the current legislators, what are you going to do about it?
No doubt. And again, identifying candidates that share your values, I suppose, is an critical, important process that voters go through. I mean, there are multiple candidates on a ballot, but I guess at the end of the day, when a person goes to that ballot box, is the person I'm voting for more aligned with my worldview or the values that I hold, the importance of working families, public education. I'm sure that's part of the review process that the AFT engages in recommending candidates for election to public office. You want to find those that hold the same values of your organization. Is that fair?
Absolutely. And public education is a huge piece of that. So when we look at candidates, we're looking for people to not only support the issues that we value and all West Virginians value. People support their public school, their neighborhood school. and they support a livable wage and strong, good health care systems. So when we look at candidates, we're also asking the voters to make sure they're doing the same thing. That we, have our neighbors running, but does our neighbor that's running or representing us truly hold the same values that we do in ensuring that our students have a quality education system? We've been seeing these vacancies go up. We're not getting certified teachers to stay in West Virginia because they can't make ends meet. If you have to teach school and work at Hardee's on the weekend, we have a serious problem in West Virginia. And making sure the voters, and 55 Strong has been very active in putting out information. Here are the candidates, and I feel very fortunate to have some of those candidates here with us today.
Looking forward to talking to some of them, and but the sort of the process of empowerment, that's something that I noticed during this process. Is a lot of times people think, well, what happens at the Capitol? I just have to sit back and watch. But what I saw was folks that said, hey, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and, try to impact and affect public policy. And at the end of the day, some success in terms of, teacher pay and commitments to fix a long existing problem that's been a real impediment for the recruitment and retention of quality personnel, and that's the benefit package, PEIA. So that process of empowerment can be a little bit contagious sometimes too. And do you sense that that's one of the side effects of what occurred, was that people now believe that I can indeed make a difference in public policy?
Well, absolutely, and that's been building. I mean, people did watch. They elected different folks to the legislature. They watched, and then they called, and they emailed, and that felt like they were not being heard. And the people that they had elected at the time were not necessarily representing their issues and taking their voice to do something active. So when we had the work stoppage, the strike, the walkout, whatever you want to call it, I mean, it really got the attention, and these folks, as I said before, are proud of their activity and empowered to say, I put you in this position, and as a citizen of West Virginia who votes, I can take you out.
That's exactly right. And again, the importance, we're inside 100 days to the upcoming general election, going to be an important time. Going to go straight to a big part of the issue, I guess, the main issue in some people's minds. I mean, some of this was about pay, but I found among a lot of the teachers that I talk and interact with regularly, PEIA, just a big, chronic, long existing issue in the state of West Virginia. Really an important issue. We have 233,000 enrollees in the state of West Virginia that rely upon PEIA for their health insurance coverage. And again, for our viewers, the governor committed to the appointment of a task force to make recommendations to come up with ways in which we can address some of the funding issues, the coverage issues, a lot of those types of things. And you've been a part of that process in the last several months. You're part of, I believe, the Public Outreach Subcommittee, which was tasked with actually going out and conducting public hearings. I think you all held 21 public hearings throughout the state of West Virginia, so you're bound to have heard a lot. And if you could just kind of bring us up to date a little bit on the status of that work effort, where it's going, a little bit of the timeline, just where are we on that critically important issue affecting educators in West Virginia?
Well, the task force is made up of 29 people. Those 29 people were divided up into 3 groups. I'm currently serve on the public outreach, who is the initial group to go out and gather information, to hear from the participants, from active and retirees, We also had citizens that said, I don't even have PEIA, but I, understand the value of it. This wasn't a gimme. This was part of a compensation package. And at one time, nobody had to even contribute to that. That was part of their compensation. As we've gone along, we're down to, now it's 20% of the participant, 80% of the employer. As we don't, the revenue isn't there at the state level, the benefits go down, the cost goes up, and people are frustrated by that. If you cannot make a livable wage and you can't afford your health care, how can you stay in West Virginia? Which goes back to losing certified people, and all of our teachers that are committed to West Virginia and our children having to leave the state. So now that the PEIA task force has gathered all this information, the last meeting is endless debate on whether or not we're supposed to make recommendations to the rest of the task force or report the findings. The opinion is kind of all over the map, but at the same time, I went back and watched the meetings and looked at all the comments, and people want us to report what was heard. It was their voice. They want us to send to the larger task force, the other subcommittees, this is what the people said. So the cost and revenue, they said we need to have severance tax was the most prominent thing as far as the solution to the funding. But also maintain that there should not be taxes on the citizens of West Virginia, that we shouldn't be giving away our natural resources. We can't make a recommendation that makes the most sense to the cost and revenue. The cost and revenue has to say, okay, here's a funding that, because the people said not on the backs of working families, here's the funding that could potentially generate revenue without burdening the citizens of West Virginia. And then the full task force can only make recommendations to the PEIA Finance Board, which is also appointed by the governor and has been reduced as far as seats and representation. Labor no longer has a voice. The state employee person, there's a conflict in code, had to come off of that board. So now we have, this group that will have to put together a plan based on these recommendations and the funding. We've got to have funding. We know that's $50 million at least every year shortfall. So we've got to get into the mindset of what are we going to do about this to find a dedicated revenue source that doesn't burden our citizens in West Virginia.
Absolutely. Well, that's a great summary of that process, and again, I guess the Finance Board will have to set the terms for the plan for the upcoming year. That precedes the next regular session of the legislature, so I guess it will require the West Virginia legislature to actually come with the quote fix or whatever those recommendations might be.
The governor annually tells the PEIA director, Ted Cheatham, what funding is going to be available.
Yeah.
He has to build that plan around that report. And then the board will have to go out to more public hearings to allow people's voices to be heard about the proposed plan, and that has to happen in statute in November.
Absolutely. Well, Christine, unfortunately, we're kind of running out of time here, and maybe we can come back and try to stay current and up to date concerning, future installments on the PEIA issue, and certainly an important issue affecting a lot of people in West Virginia. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break and be right back to the Capitol Report, so stay with us, everybody.
This is the West Virginia Capitol Report. Funding for the West Virginia Capitol Report is brought to you by Mark A. Hunt and Associates and by the AFL-CIO of West Virginia.
Hi everybody, I'm Tom McGee. It's dangerous out there. If you get hurt, shift the odds in your favor. Call Mark Hunt to get your just compensation and compensation for your injury. And if you have any criminal charge or if you get a DUI, be sure to call me at 304-642-6160.
The law firm of Mark Hunt and Associates, specializing in personal injury, DUI, and criminal defense. 304-344-1800.
From under the Gold Dome in Charleston, this is the West Virginia Capitol Report.
Welcome back to the Capitol Report as we continue today's show. Again, our focus on public education and again, the importance of the upcoming general election in November. And real pleased to be joined by a special guest, Melissa Huffman, who is a teacher at Clendenin Elementary School here in Kanawha County, who is running for an open seat in the 40th Delegate District here in Kanawha County. And Melissa, welcome to the Capitol Report Show.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And again, a teacher, involved in public education, that keeps you busy. But again, the idea of running for public office, again, that's an important decision that people make. But again, motivated reasons, perhaps. What went into some of the things you considered in deciding to be a candidate for public office this fall?
Like most people, I've sat back and watched basically a war on the working families in the state of West Virginia over the last several years, and just could not sit back for that anymore. Our public education systems are being attacked, our health insurance is being attacked, our livelihoods are being attacked, and the state of West Virginia deserves better.
Well, again, some folks like the comfortable spectator seats, and others say, hey, enough is enough, and time to roll up the sleeve and get involved.
Right.
So did the movement, I'll say, that the way in which teachers impacted and affected public policy in the last regular session of the legislature, was that kind of a little bit of a catalyst in, sort of saying, hey, this is something I need
Absolutely, and I cannot say enough of how proud I am to be an AFT member, how proud I am to be a public school teacher for the state of West Virginia, and what we accomplished as a whole for public education.
Absolutely. Well, again, a lot of issues. It's you can sort of pick and choose a lot of important work that our legislature does that really impacts and affects the lives of people throughout West Virginia in many different ways. But at this point in advancing your candidacy during the campaign, maybe if you could just identify a few of those issues that have been of special interest to you as a candidate in the 40th Delegate District.
The state of West Virginia is suffering from the major opioid addiction issues that we have. I mean, we're number one in the country with overdoses. That also goes hand in hand with our mental health issues. Neither have treatment facilities in this state. We have to have treatment facilities for our addiction and mental health issues. The working families, a person has got to be able to make a living wage. We're losing people left and right to other states because they can't live here. We have the best state in the nation as far as I'm concerned. And we have the best, hardest working people here, but we're losing them on a daily basis.
Yeah, well, those are certainly important issues, and again, things that have to be fixed if we're going to truly improve the quality of lives for people in the communities in which we live. So again, public education, really the future of this state, is in the hands of classroom teachers that, motivate and challenge students. I'm sure you'll be front and center on educational issues also.
Absolutely. When a corporation looks to move its business somewhere, one of the first things they look at when they're moving employees to an area, what type of education system does that area have? Does it have a good area to build? Do we have a cost of living that's affordable and an education system that is excellent.
Absolutely.
And that's what we need to bring businesses to West Virginia.
All right. Well, again, Melissa Huffman, teacher at Clendenin Elementary School, but more importantly for this discussion, a solid candidate for an open seat in the 40th Delegate District. I really want to wish you every good luck and success in the upcoming election.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Welcome back to the Capitol Report as we continue today's show. Again, focus on public education in the state of West Virginia. We're fortunate to be joined by some candidates for public office in the upcoming November election. And joining us for this segment is Sarah Duncan, who is a teacher at Walton Elementary and School in Roane County. And again, is a candidate for election to the 11th Delegate District in the West Virginia House of Delegates. And Sarah, welcome to the Capitol Report Show. Glad to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. And again, you know, obviously the teachers' strike was something that really created a sense of activism among teachers, bringing sort of the importance of public education to the forefront. It empowered a lot of people who maybe sort of sat on the sidelines and otherwise didn't get involved. But people decide to run for public office for a variety of reasons.
Yes.
And it's an important decision. And maybe you could share with our viewers a little bit about the reasons why, or maybe what motivated you to throw your hat in the ring, as they say, and become a candidate for public office.
Yes, well, you know, I don't come from a political family. Running for office has never been a goal of mine. But over the past several years, I've been paying attention and I've been participating in the process, and I've been up to the Capitol and watched everything, you know, as it's happening. And especially after this spring and the teachers' strike, I think I felt, and many others felt, that many of the people up there aren't representing the interests of regular West Virginians. They're representing special interests, corporate interests, and not doing things that are going to benefit our citizens.
So again, kind of observing first, look before you leap, so to speak. And my sense was that, you know, good people who, you know, may have been attentive but maybe not necessarily involved, saw that indeed people can impact and affect the outcome of public policy.
Absolutely.
Did you get that sense from what occurred this spring?
I do. I mean, there are a lot of coworkers and people that I've known that, you know, you're busy with your life. You don't necessarily engage in the process as much as you would want to sometimes. But after this spring, a lot of people did pay attention. They were listening in on sessions. They attended in person. And I think they saw that our legislature was a little bit dysfunctional. But they also did. They developed some confidence. I saw people that, like I said, never engaged with the process, finding their delegates, seeking them out, meeting them in person, sending emails, calling, just really engaging in the process.
Right. Well, and again, you know, you're obviously engaged in a campaign of making people aware of who you are and what you stand for, and a lot of that is relates to issues. And maybe if you could, for the benefit of our viewers, give us a sense of those issues that are important to Sarah Duncan.
Well, education is really at the top of my list, not just because of the teacher strike. I mean, I think a lot of people think, well, this is just about insurance or just about pay, but it's really about so much more than that. In my county right now, we haven't filled half of our math teaching positions at the high school. I don't think people realize what the long-term impacts of that will be. After, when we left session in the spring, we had not even one substitute bus driver.
Wow.
I mean, this is going to impact our students directly. And it's not just the teachers. We don't have enough funds to repair buildings. I mean, we are really developing a crisis here.
Yep. And again, the future lies with our children, and we can talk about economic development and recovery and a lot of things that affect the lives, the quality of the communities in which we live. But certainly, public education is some ways you start and end with the importance of public education.
Well, and the fact of it is, if we don't develop stronger schools that are well funded with fully certified teachers, we don't stand a chance. I mean, if we really want to bring jobs here, if we want to create economic opportunity, we have to have a good school system.
Again, I want to wish you every success in the upcoming general election. And, certainly appreciate you taking the time to join us here on the Capitol.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. We're fortunate to be joined by a new candidate for public office here in Kanawha County, Amanda Estep Burton, who is seeking election to the West Virginia House of Delegates in the 36th delegate district, which includes sizable portions of the Upper Kanawha Valley, Eastern Kanawha County. And Amanda, welcome to the Capitol Report Show.
Well, thanks, Bill.
Absolutely. Well, again, we've kind of, in talking with our candidates here today, I've been talking to them a little bit about some of the reasons that go into making that important decision to sort of, serve yourself up as a candidate for election. A lot of things motivate and drive people to make those decisions. Some of the sacrifices you get involved in running for public office. So we'll start with that. Really, what went into that? What were the ingredients in that decision that you decided to seek public office?
Well, Bill, really, I'm just a working class regular citizen who has sat back and watched the war on the working class for far too long. Being a politician was never a part of my plan. I'm a mother of 4, I'm a banker, and I just felt like we needed a champion for children and a champion for working class families in West Virginia.
Absolutely. Issues. You develop issues as a result of life experiences. What issues drive your campaign and are important to Amanda Estep Burton?
Well, affordable housing, quality health care, access to health care, education obviously is a big one. I have 3 children in public schools right now. So just somebody to do something for working class people in West Virginia. You said the diversity in our legislature. 95% of our legislature is not working, or 95% of our population is working class. Less than 5% of our legislature is what we consider working class. So I'm a very working class person. Less than 5% are female, maybe 15% in the whole legislature, including the Senate. But we've got 51% of our population is female, and we don't have any females representing females. We don't have working class people representing working class people.
Absolutely. And again, the interests of working families, there's some have kind of declared, the current regime is almost as if there's been a declaration of war against the interests of working families. The right to work, prevailing wage, some of those issues that impact and affect the rights of people to organize and bargain collectively. Been a tough few years. So again, I assume, from your perspective, it's time to turn that around a little bit and start focusing on the interests of working families.
Absolutely. I mean, it's proven that wages go up. The stronger the union is, the stronger the working class families are.
Well, again, I can assure you there's plenty of room in the West Virginia House of Delegates for that kind of thinking, and certainly just one final question. The campaign process itself, one of the things that I don't think first-time candidates may not be aware of the actual mechanics of, knocking on doors and conducting the nuts and bolts of an actual campaign. How have you found that to be?
Oh, I love it. So in the primary, my team knocked on 3,500 doors alone.
Wow.
So we, not me, has been my campaign slogan, because I learned very quickly in the campaign trail that you need a whole collective group of people to work with you. So I can't do this alone. It's really, truly about us as a community working together to get elected.
Well, on that note, well said. And again, Amanda Estep Burton, candidate for election at the West Virginia House of Delegates in the 36th Delegate District here in Kanawha County. Thanks for joining us today on the Capitol.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, and I'd like to thank our viewers for tuning us in each week. Have a good week and goodbye, everybody.